It's funny. People still keep asking me about him. It's such a stretch for me because it does feel like a past life. It has such little relevance to my life now. In fact, zero relevance.
1 week in February 2006 changed everything for Sheryl Crow. In just days, her engagement collapsed, her health took a terrifying turn, and the life she thought she was stepping into completely fell apart. But the hardest part wasn't just what happened. It was what she learned about the man she trusted, while everything else was already breaking. For nearly 20 years, she said almost nothing about it. Until May 2026, when she finally broke her silence on the Bobbycast and revealed new details about Lance Armstrong that completely reframed that entire chapter of her life. So what really happened in those final days? And why did that 1 week change everything? Join us as we uncover what Sheryl Crow finally revealed about Lance Armstrong. From jingles to Grammys, nobody handed Sheryl Crow a career. She took fate into her own hands when she drove to Los Angeles from a town in Missouri that had exactly 3 stoplights, took whatever work the music industry would give her, and stayed until she figured out the rest. But the transition wasn't as easy as it sounds. Before Sheryl decided to leave, she started out in Missouri as a school music teacher, teaching kids during the day at Kellison Elementary. But every night and weekend, she was chasing something else, music. And she chased it relentlessly. To get closer to the life she always dreamed about, Sheryl joined local bands and met a St. Louis producer, Jay Oliver. He had a small studio in his parents' basement, and that became her first real door into the industry. At first, it wasn't big stages or fame. It was more of advertising jingles. Her first was a back-to-school ad for Famous Bar. Simple work, but it paid and kept her going. That small start quickly turned into steady studio work. She began singing for major brands like McDonald's and Toyota. One McDonald's commercial alone reportedly earned her around $40,000, something she later described as life-changing at the time. From there, things escalated fast. Her voice started landing in bigger sessions, and soon she was pulled into one of the biggest tours in the world, Michael Jackson's Bad World Tour. For 2 years, she traveled with him as a backing vocalist, performing in massive stadiums and even sharing vocals on I Just Can't Stop Loving You. It was a huge leap from classroom walls to global stages. At the same time, she became a go-to background vocalist for major artists. She worked with Stevie Wonder, Don Henley, Belinda Carlisle, Jimmy Buffett, and Kevin Gilbert, building a reputation as a trusted studio voice. She also played keyboards and sang in Kevin Gilbert's band, Toy Matinee, showing she wasn't just a background name, she was also a part of the creative process. Her voice kept showing up in unexpected places too. She contributed to Neil Sean's track Smoke of the Revolution and later appeared in TV and film projects like Cop Rock, Bright Angel, and Stone Cold. Her work even landed on the Point Break soundtrack, along with a duet with Kenny Loggins. What started in a classroom slowly turned into a career, moving through studios, stadiums, and soundtracks, without most people realizing just how far she had come. The thing she was building arrived through a Tuesday night songwriting session with a group of collaborators who made a rule that they had to finish a song before going home. That group became the Tuesday Night Music Club, and the first session she attended produced the song Leaving Las Vegas, which eventually appeared on her debut album. The album itself was initially modest, until All I Want to Do hit radio in 1994 and changed everything, launching her to 3 Grammy wins at the 1995 ceremony, including Best New Artist. 9 Grammy Awards followed across her career, with 50 million albums sold worldwide, and collaborations with Keith Richards, Stevie Nicks, Prince, and the Rolling Stones. She became one of the most recognizable voices in American music. All of that, the Grammys, the tours, the reputation, was fully in place when she walked into a charity event in October 2003 and met the most famous athlete in the world. Things got a lot more interesting in a short period of time. So, what happened when she met this athlete at a time when no one thinks he can be questioned? The man the whole world believed in. When Lance Armstrong and Sheryl Crow met, he was not simply a successful cyclist. He was the most celebrated athlete on the planet, and he came wrapped in a story that made him essentially impossible to criticize. He had beaten testicular cancer that had spread to his lungs and brain, then returned to professional cycling and won the Tour de France 7 consecutive times from 1999 to 2005. The Livestrong Foundation he founded raised hundreds of millions of dollars for cancer research. His yellow wristband became the most universal piece of charity merchandise in the world. He was survivor, champion, philanthropist, and cultural icon simultaneously. And at the precise moment Sheryl Crow walked into that charity event in October 2003, he was fresh off his 5th consecutive tour victory. Sheryl felt all giddy like a teenager, and even later revealed that it was love at first sight, and she knew immediately that she was completely into him. They began dating, and by September 2005, Lance proposed during a trip to Sun Valley, Idaho, in what she described as a very romantic gesture. She moved into his ranch in Austin, Texas. She cheered for him at races. She stepped into the life of his 3 children from his previous marriage. She was, by every account, fully committed. In November 2005, the two sat down with Barbara Walters after Lance was named one of her most fascinating people. He called Sheryl hot. Sheryl said meeting him felt like she had known him forever. The chemistry between them was obvious. But what happens when everything looks perfect on the surface? But in reality, it's all about to fall apart. 10 weeks later, it was over. 1 week took everything that they had been building since 2003. The specific devastation of what happened in February 2006 is something Sheryl Crow never described in full detail until she sat down on the Bobbycast in May 2026. In that episode, she laid it out plainly. She had been engaged, had grown close to 3 children that she was preparing to help raise, and had wanted children with Lance herself. In the same 7 days, 3 things happened simultaneously. The engagement ended, she received a breast cancer diagnosis, and also found out Lance was already seeing a well-known actress. She did not name the actress. She has never named her. But she named the timing, the same week, and the specificity of that detail is what gives the disclosure its weight. This was not a slow unraveling. It was a single week in which her entire planned future collapsed from multiple directions at the same time. What followed was 9 months of radiation treatment combined with grief and anger. She named those 3 things specifically: radiation, grief, anger. And the fact that she named the anger rather than smoothing it over with more diplomatic language is the most honest part of the disclosure. She was angry. She said so. When she eventually gave a description of what the breakup had cost her emotionally, she spoke about having come out of a relationship where she believed she would be married, where she had grown close to children who were nearly her stepchildren, and then the cancer diagnosis arrived on top of all of it. All 3 things together forced a fundamental reassessment. As she told Diane Sawyer, the breakup felt like a death, specifically the kind where the habit of the relationship keeps firing after the relationship itself is gone. She described reaching for the impulse to share music with him, and then remembering that was not her life anymore. What happens when life doesn't fall apart one thing at a time, but everything hits at once? The cancer she almost skipped finding. The breast cancer diagnosis that arrived in the same week as the breakup was not the result of symptoms or discomfort. It was a routine mammogram that she almost did not keep. It was 2006. She was 44 years old. It was Grammy week. She was busy. She was fit. She had no family history. She was the last person who expected to receive a serious diagnosis, but she kept the appointment anyway. The cancer was caught early specifically because her OB/GYN pushed for an immediate biopsy, despite the radiologist recommending they wait 6 months. The stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma was caught because someone in her medical team refused to delay. She underwent a lumpectomy and 7 weeks of radiation therapy. In her People magazine interview, she described lying on the radiation table and asking herself what she had done wrong and why she deserved this. She held herself to the standard of being a genuinely good person, and finding herself facing her mortality cracked that self-image in ways she had to reconstruct slowly. She made a promise to herself during treatment that she would not bury the experience. She would sit with it, work through it, and eventually make something from it. And she did all that. She wrote Make It Go Away, also known as Radiation Song, after going into remission in 2008, and described the act of completing it as closing the book on that chapter. She had been keeping the appointment that saved her life while simultaneously processing the collapse of the relationship she had believed would define the rest of it. That combination, endured alone over 9 months, is the actual story underneath the celebrity headline. But what if the worst part wasn't the breakup, but watching someone she trusted live a completely different reality that she didn't fully understand at the time? What she was watching him do. There is a dimension to the Sheryl Crow and Lance Armstrong story that makes the eventual ending feel inevitable in retrospect. A layer of deception running underneath the relationship that only became fully visible years after it was over. While Sheryl was fighting cancer and rebuilding her life after the breakup, Lance was engaged in something that would eventually become one of the biggest scandals in the history of professional sport. According to the book Wheelman by Wall Street Journal reporters, Shirley had witnessed Armstrong receive an illegal blood transfusion aboard his private jet on a flight to Belgium in 2004, while the two were together. Rather than hiding it from her, Lance was completely open about it, explaining that it was simply part of the sport and that all cyclists did the same thing. Little did she know she was a witness to a crime that would later spring up when she least expected. Lance was later subpoenaed by federal investigators as part of a criminal probe into his doping. She was given a written agreement protecting her from prosecution in exchange for cooperating with the investigation. Sheryl Crow informed Food and Drug Administration criminal investigator Jeff Nowitzki about what she had seen, and that her cooperation contributed to the broader federal case against Lance. That was the beginning of his downward spiral. When Lance was stripped of his Tour de France titles in 2012, Sheryl said she felt bad for him and for his family, and said she felt like the rest of America, watching a hero she had looked up to fall. She declined to describe herself as deceived or victimized. She described herself as someone who had cared about him and found it painful to watch. When Lance confessed to Oprah Winfrey in January 2013, Sheryl told CBS News that carrying a secret of that weight for that long would be devastating in the long run, and that honesty was always the better path. She kept the statement short. She kept it clean. She did not extract public revenge from the situation, even though she had more than enough material to do it with. So after everything collapsed at once, what finally kept her from breaking completely? The therapist who changed the direction. What actually turned the 9 months of radiation and grieving and anger into something survivable was one sentence from a therapist. When everything had crashed simultaneously, she tried to make sense of what her life was supposed to look like, but couldn't. So, she went to a therapist, and what he told her has stayed with her ever since. He said to walk through your life and say, "Thank you for infinite possibilities." Not forced optimism or reframing, just an acknowledgement that nothing had been decided yet, that the path she had planned and the path she was on could be two different paths without the second one being lesser. A year after the cancer diagnosis and the breakup, she bought a 150-acre horse farm outside Nashville and relocated from Los Angeles entirely. Her sisters were within 3 hours. Her family was accessible. She described it as the beginning of Phase 2, not a retreat from the life she had built, but a deliberate pivot toward the life she actually wanted. She adopted her son Wyatt in 2007 as a single parent, followed by her son Levi in 2010. She became a mother without a partner, by choice, in her mid-40s. She described them as the best decision she ever made, and said she was too selfish to want to miss any time with them. Lance, on the other hand, got married to his current wife, Anna Hansen, in August 2022, and they shared 2 children together. He described the relationship with Sheryl to Howard Stern as a good ride. In his words, "She is a great lady. It did not work out, and he hoped she was happy." The brevity of that summary, measured against what Sheryl described on the Bobbycast, is a gap wide enough to walk through. While Lance moved forward and started a new family, Sheryl was still in the process of rebuilding everything that had just fallen apart, putting it together step by step. She built something better. 20 years after the worst week of her life, Sheryl Crow's record is not one of survival alone. She resumed her career in 2008 with the album Detours, a direct reckoning with the cancer, the breakup, and the new life she was building, and has not stopped since. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023. As Showtime's 2022 documentary, Sheryl, directed by Amy Scott and reviewed by the Press Reader Press Service, the film covered her career alongside her battles with depression, cancer, a benign brain tumor discovered separately, and her life as an adoptive single parent. Keith Richards, Laura Dern, Brandi Carlile, and Stevie Nicks all appeared in the film. She became a vocal advocate for early cancer detection, turning her own near miss into advocacy work that has likely saved lives. She describes herself as practically the poster child for early detection, found at stage 1 because she kept an appointment she almost canceled. Her message to women is that early detection is the best weapon available until a cure exists. During her interview with Savannah Guthrie, she told her audience that life does not have to be tailored to the story you tell yourself about what it is supposed to look like, that you limit yourself when you hold too tightly to one version of the future. The woman who sat beside Barbara Walters in November 2005 with a 6-carat ring and a plan for the rest of her life is now a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, the mother of 2 sons she chose deliberately, the owner of a Tennessee horse farm, and someone who spent 9 months on a radiation table learning the specific difference between the life you planned and the life that turns out to be yours. The life that turned out to be hers is the better story. As of 2026, Sheryl Crow's net worth is estimated at around $70 million. A large part of that wealth comes from a long and successful music career that has lasted for decades. She has sold over 50 million records worldwide, with hit albums and singles that continue to generate income through streaming, licensing, and royalties. Touring has also been a major source of earnings for her, with live performances playing a big role in keeping her career strong and financially successful, even years after her biggest chart peaks. Beyond music, Sheryl Crow has also built income through brand partnerships and media appearances. Over the years, she has been featured in campaigns and promotions for several well-known companies and publications. These include Self Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, the iconic Got Milk campaign, as well as major brands like Revlon and American Express. These collaborations helped expand her presence beyond music and positioned her as a recognizable cultural figure in fashion, lifestyle, and advertising spaces. Together, her music catalog, touring success, and selective brand work have all contributed to her long-term financial stability. Even decades into her career, she remains an active performer and continues to earn from both her legacy and ongoing creative work. When 1 week takes your engagement, your health, and your belief that the person you loved was fully honest with you, what does it actually take to come out of that with gratitude rather than bitterness? And if Sheryl Crow had married Lance Armstrong before the truth about his doping came out, would she have stayed when it did? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.